Hello, guess who and guess what? Well, it's me, Robbie Susan Chandler, an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator who lives in Quincy, Florida, right outside Tallahassee, Florida. If you live in the area, I have classes in my home. I'd love for you to come over and join me. Now, let's get to the what. Let me move my little name thing and I'll show you. Look at this card. Isn't this gorgeous? This is another card I've made with the iridescent treat bags, and I'll show you that in a second. And I've made another card with it, but I'll put a link to it below. But I might as well go ahead and show you that card. Here it is. And it's an easel card. And see that bag in the back, how the colors change. But now, let's get back to today's card. Okay, this is made with the bundle Autumn Trees. And it's an easel card, and it sits like this on the table. You can see it like that. And then inside I have this piece for you to write your sentiment and a stamp from the Autumn Leaves dies. And I stamped this with this little deer here. And this piece is 4 by 2.5. So now we've got that piece out of the way. Let's talk about the rest of the card. Let me move this. And let's start with our card base. This is Early Espresso, and it's 11 inches by 4 1/4 inches, and it's scored at 5 1/2 and then at 2 3/4. So 11 by 4 1/4, scored at 5 1/2, and then to make your easel, you fold it under again at 2 3/4. So here's your base. Now let's talk about this pretty glittery section back here. Alright, first of all, these are our iridescent treat bags. And they look like this. See, it's a little bag you can put goodies in. But the interesting thing is, when you cut one in half and you put it behind a color, it changes it. So look at it right here on my white paper. And then I'm going to put it over here on this Darling Duckling piece. And look at the change. Looks like a sunset to me. Isn't that gorgeous? And the Darling Duckling piece is 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. So what I did, I glued this together, and you just need to put a little bit of glue here and here, and it will hold it down. That's all that's really needed. And here's one that's already adhered. And then I cut a piece of Early Espresso that is 5 1/2 by 4 1/4. I didn't do my little thing for this, but it's 5 1/2 by 4 1/4. I think I have one right here. Here we go. 5 1/2, 4 1/4, and I cut it with the largest branching out die. And that's these dies, branching out. And there's 6 of them. I've been using them quite a bit, and I really like them. But it makes a nice frame. So I cut that piece out, and then I adhered it right to the front of this piece. And as the magic of video, I have one done. And then to make it even more special, I ran it through the embossing folder, the birchwood, and now look at it. The birchwood embossing, and with this one you need to use a gray plate because this is one of our thicker ones, and we have a specialty plate called a gray plate. Isn't that cool? I love this. Look at the difference with and without. I just really think it looks so much cooler with it. Okay, now we've got our front part done. Let's talk about the tree. The tree is where all the detail is. Okay, first of all, I took the dies from Autumn Leaves. And this is the die set. And this is a 2-part cut. You've got an outline piece, and then you've got your detail part in the middle. And it cuts out this tree. But there's more to this tree than that. There is a stamp set, this one right here, that adds a lot of detail and makes it look a lot better. So what I did, because I like to stamp things darker, I took my dies and I cut this design out and put it in my MISTI here, or your Stamparatus, whatever position, stamp positioner you have, and made a little hole there that I can just drop that down in. And then I took Early Espresso ink and I stamped my tree. And I'm going to show you the difference in how it looks. Let me get it right there. And it's really not that hard. And also another tip here, if you tape these two together, next time you want to cut another one, just put your paper underneath, run it through, you have another tree. Put your paper underneath. And I have to cut like 20 of these for my classes. It made it so much quicker and easier just to put it in there and run it through. So I'm going to show you the tree now. You see it without the design. And then you just bring this over. And now look at it. Wow. And see if I want to make it darker. Just pat a little bit. Make it a little bit darker. Now look, isn't that so much prettier than just the plain design? Alright, let me set this aside because we're going to come back and use that in a minute. So here's my tree. And what I did, I took my tree and I took a brush and some of the Early Espresso ink, and I just sponged down the side of the tree and these branches to make them pop more. You see the difference? And that way when I layer my leaves over it, those branches will show more. Alright, now let's get on to the fun part. Alright, I'm going to set this, well, I'm going to put this one here for a minute. Okay, I used a whole lot of colors on this card. Now, first of all, you need a white piece, 5.5 by 4 1/4. And just lay it over here. And then you're going to lay your tree here after you've already done your limbs there. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start this, but I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm going to start with Cajun Craze. And what I did, I told my customers to take this and do like 5 or 6 circles around randomly on this piece of paper. Now, here's a hint. Needs to be intense, dark. If not, you don't get the pretty autumn tree look. So I'm going to go back over it. Alright, so I did that with Cajun Craze. Now, when I did it here, I also moved over here and put a little bit on this tree. Now this tree is going to be down on the bottom, but it's still going to show through. So you want a little color on it. Alright, so that's my Cajun Craze. And then I used, let's see, I think I used Poppy Parade. It really doesn't matter what order you do these in. You're just going to start filling in till you have all of this white covered up. And you know I'm not going to make you sit here and watch me do all of this. I'm going to stop with this color, but add a little bit over here. Add some here, out there, about right here in the middle. Alright, so that's the Poppy Parade. Now I'm just going to show you the colors that I use, because when you finish, this is what you're going to have. Let's see where we started, see where we're going. Alright, another color I used, Garden Green. And then I went to Cherry Cobbler. And next I used Pumpkin Pie. And I have all these listed in my free tutorial down below. And last but not least, I took Crushed Curry. And anywhere there was any white left, like that corner right there, I would just do anything white to just totally cover up the rest of that with the Crushed Curry. Okay, now you're wondering, what did you do with that after you did all that? This is going to be my leaves. So this is what I did after I colored all this. Keep my tree here. By the way, here's one of the trees finished. See where I started it, and here's where I finished. Alright, so I took this die cut again, and I ran it through my machine with just the leaves up and over. That's all I wanted, was just the leaves. And I ended up with this. Look at that, isn't that cool? And then I had a little section left over here. This is another die that's in the set. And a lot of people just cut this piece and just layer it on their tree and they just stop there. But I'm so into detail, I just kind of want to do a little bit more. So I cut this piece out. This came from here. No, I'm sorry. This came from here. And then I had a piece left over here, and I laid this here and cut that out. And it could be that you might not be able to get all that there, so you'll have a little section here, and you can cut a little section out of that. But as many pieces as I could get out of this piece I did, because I wanted to use all of it. So we now have this piece and these pieces. Now, since I'm so much about detail, I did not like the way this looked like that. So guess what I did? Bring my stamp apparatus back over, or Misty, drop this one down in the hole, match up your template. Let's pull our early espresso out again. Now keep your eye on this and remember what it looks like before. Now let's do a little stamping here. Just get my brush out of the way. Bring it over. And everything should still be in place from what you did earlier. Ooh, look at that. And I want it a little bit darker. Now let's go again. Wow, okay. It makes all the difference in the world once you stamp it. And see, here you have all that little detail. Look at that. Now, when you put this over this, look at the difference. But look how funny this trunk looks. I really don't like that, so what I did, I took some scissors, I cut that trunk out right along here. Just kind of cut it around this part, and here, and down there. Now look at the difference. No, I don't like that right there. Let me get that off. Get that off. Okay, so now look at that. Doesn't that look more natural? Okay, so let's put these together. And I've got one here with the dimensionals already on it. Get this out of the way. Let's pop these off. I guess I could have done this ahead of time instead of you sitting here watching me pull dimensional backings off. As you can tell, I'm really into detail when I like to do things, and this tree I felt like needed all these little details. Okay, so let's just pop this down right on top of the tree. Now you're wondering, why did I color that underneath? Why did I go to so much trouble? I felt like some of it kind of showed. I guess you really don't need to. Oh, look at there, I didn't cut that out. Let's cut that out real quick. Let's see how ugly that is. Let's get rid of that. I don't want to cut my tree itself. Somehow I forgot to cut this piece off. It's not hard at all to get rid of it. There we go. Alright, now I like the look of it. So there we have this layer, and now I'm going to put this layer on it, and it really gives it a lot of dimension. Now down here in Florida, we don't really get to see a lot of leaves turning, a little bit, but not much, so it's really exciting for me and people down here when the leaves do start changing. So just pop that on that, just like that. Let's see what's going on here. I got double thickness. Didn't pull my backing off. There we go. Now, I don't know if you notice, and you probably do, I got some white spots. That's where my dimensionals are showing. So I'm going to take one of my colors, and let me look at it. I think I need a little more green on this one. So let me pull out my garden green. And what we did, we just took a Q-tip, and we just kind of colored around in there. And you could also take, let me pull the orange. You could also take your brush and brush some of that. Let's try pumpkin pie. So try to put a little color down in it like that. But there's several ways you can just, if you just keep working with it, you can get rid. See how it's going away there? And put some on top of that. And you might want to just match up the color that's on the top. But that starts kind of camouflaging. Or you can go to a lot of trouble and cut your dimensionals a lot smaller. But I wanted to do it this way just to show you how you could color these dimensionals so they don't show as much. Alright, so that's, I'm just going to stop there for now. Probably would do a little more coloring later. Alright, so there's my tree. Isn't that pretty? Don't have any dimensionals on it. Let's do that. Okay, now we're going to put it on our sunset. This piece. Alright, let me pull some dimensionals over here. Let's put one down here. And you notice I like dimensionals. I use a lot of them in my classes and on my cards. I like dimension. I like things to look real and to pop. Alright, so we're just going to sit this right here on the bottom. Just like that. And you know what? If I glued this last night, but I wish I had left it loose. It works a little better if you can slip that tree under there. Maybe I can get it loose enough to do that. Let's see. And also I have some deer I want to slip under there. And you know what? Several people in my classes glued all the way down, which I told them not to, and then here I did it myself. So let me pull some of this up a little bit. There we go. There we go. Kind of will loosen from this iridescent treat bag. Okay, so let's stick our tree a little bit farther down. There we go. Now it's grounded. I felt like before it was kind of flying in the air a little bit. Now I cut the deer with the die from Autumn Leaves. Whoops, there they are. Out of Early Espresso also. And I'm just going to put a little dimensional. You know what? I did this late last night. And I put these dimensionals on the front of the deer instead of the back of the deer. Don't we do stuff like that all the time? So I'm going to pull him off. I'm going to pull this one off. And let's get a small one. I don't think the big ones are going to work here. Let's just pop this on the back. Yeah, I was working on this late last night. Decided to get up this morning and finish my video. Alright, so let's see if we can slip this down here. We might not be able to, so I'm going to go this way. And then I'm going to trim this off. Let's see if I can slip that. I'm going to trim a little bit more. Let's see, if I had let this loose, it would have just gone right under there. Let's take our little spatula here and loosen that up just a little bit. If you don't have this take your pick tool, something you might want to look into getting, because it definitely is worth it. Okay, struggling here. Get in there. Alright, we got one in where it should be. Just still trying to get this one a little bit farther in there. Am I out of the camera? Alrighty. We're going to let that go just like that. Alright, we got a little bit of stitch in there at the bottom. There we go. And there's our deer standing in front of the tree. And we're going to put this on the front of our base. Now remember, when you're doing an easel, you need to burnish this good. And you also only put your glue on the bottom part of the front, right down here. And when you put it on there, you're going to match up the bottoms, not the tops. Match the bottoms, just like that. There we go, and I'm going to let it sit just a second. While it's sitting, let me talk to you about the sentiment that we have. And the sentiment, I used a piece of the, I had it around here, piece of the autumn, it's called autumn twill paper, and that's that piece underneath. And it is actually 4 by 3 3/4, and it was this color. And I took my Cajun Craze brush and I just brushed over it to change it to this color. Let's see where it's starting to change there. And then I cut a piece of crumb cake with the die from Textured Notes, stamped my sentiment in Cajun Craze, and I put it, these two, this brown piece, early espresso piece, is 4 by 2 1/2, and then I just glued this directly to it to give it some stability, and then I mounted this piece with dimensionals. Then I also put dimensionals here because I wanted it to pop up and keep my easel standing up. So let's do this. Let's see how far back. I think I want it about there to make it stand up pretty good. There we go. How about that? I think my tree's a little off to that side, but you know what? We're going to leave it for now. There we go. Isn't that a beautiful card? Let me get the other one too and set it up. Now see, this one I got my deer a little bit farther down, and I really like them better farther down. I may work with that one in a minute. There it is. So there's that card. Isn't that beautiful? I know it's a little bit of work, a little bit of detail, but I think it was worth it. So please like my video, share it, subscribe, and if you need a demonstrator, I'd love to be your demonstrator. And if you'd like to be on a team, I'd love to be your team leader. So until next time, happy crafting.